My guest today is another one of our students in our coaching program. With me today, I've got Kayla Fisher, and she's going to share how she went from where she was at as a brand new agent to putting 12 deals under contract in January 2021. So Kayla, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
All right, cool. So we were just kind of talking off air, and I want to share your story, like we were just doing off air, and because I think so many people will really be inspired by your story, because all the agents inside of our program feel inspired by you, and so let's give everybody an idea of how long you're in the business, what market you're in, and then we'll jump into how you did this.
Yeah. So I'm from Texas. I am in Southeast Texas, which is in between Houston and Lake Charles. We in a town called Beaumont. It's not huge, but our area is full of industrial refineries, ExxonMobil, BASF, so a lot of oil and gas. But our average transaction is about $250,000. And, the inventory just depends on the pockets of areas. So we have some that move really quickly and some that sit, but the average days on market is about 45 days. And then obviously just depending on the area, some of that goes in 2 days and some of it sits for 90. So yeah.
Yeah. And you haven't even been licensed. We're shooting this in the beginning of February 2021. You haven't even been licensed 1 full year yet, have you?
No, I got my license. I tried to get my license in March, but COVID shut down the testing. And so I had to wait until May to get my test. And I was officially licensed on May the 30th. And I had a broker that I was working with, and I'm no longer with them, but I started, and a new agent. I have a lot of business experience, but it was kind of like a total 180. I mean, I didn't know what form to use. I have no idea like what it means to sign a contract, none of that. And even with my education and my business experience, like I knew that it would take a while to like create some traction. But, I did some sales with my catering company, and I owned 3 restaurants and a catering company for about 10 years and had grown that pretty significantly. But as, time went on, and as every entrepreneur knows, you don't make every decision right. And so there were some mistakes made, but ultimately when COVID hit, there wasn't enough cash flow to sustain our businesses. And so I took that opportunity to, bow out very gracefully. And also I had gone through a divorce, and I needed a change, and financially, I needed a change. I have 3 kids, and as a single mom at the time, I had to figure out what to do to support my family, and that was my main motivation. I have a couple of friends that are real estate agents that are very successful, and then they just told me I would be really great at it. And I loved the flexibility of real estate, which is such a joke because there's really not that much flexibility.
Right.
But so I decided to jump in to real estate, thinking that I could make money and be with my kids all the time, and it was just gonna, be easy. And it was kind of a culture shock at first. Given my history of the restaurants, my sphere is really very wide and strong. And in the first 4 months, I closed $1.4 million in volume and had made a little bit of money. And that was really inspiring to me. However, after, the initial boom of getting your license and you tell all your friends that you're an agent and then people want to support you and all of these things, like I found myself at like 3 or 4 months, like just waiting on my sphere to call me, or cultivating my sphere to call me. And it was just a waiting game.
So let's break that down. I want to kind of walk people through this story step by step, because man, oh man, you are going to strike a nerve with so many people. So you go through some tough times with your restaurant. You went through some personal things. You got into real estate because you had some friends that are in the industry doing very, very well. It provided you and your lifestyle what you needed to be a single mom and to provide for your kids. So you get into the business, you get your license on my birthday, by the way, May 30th. So we have that to share forever. And like many new realtors, you had a strong sphere that responded very, very well to you. You got your license and like, oh, Kayla, we're so happy for you. We're actually looking to buy a house. And you're like, this is going to be easy. You sell 1.4 million out of the gate and you're like, oh, I got this. No big deal. You get some cash. And then everything went dark, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had nothing in November. I had a client that called me, another friend that was getting divorced and knew that I had just been through that. And it was very public divorce. And, me and my ex-husband worked in the same industry together, in the same businesses. I mean, our faces were plastered on billboards, and then all of a sudden, like here we are. And so I had a couple people call me to just do this or that. But again, it was just like a waiting game. So like I had, several transactions in September, October. I had nothing in the pipeline. I'd have somebody call me out of the blue and I would be like, thank God I can buy my kids Christmas presents.
Wow.
And so I did that. And around the same time, I found your program. And I began to learn that if you just wait on your sphere, you're always going to be waiting. And I had never cold called anybody. Like, to pick up the phone and call a stranger was like one of the most intimidating things I'd ever done in my life.
Sure.
And so I found your program, but I still had no idea what to do. Like, I didn't know, like in the program, you really talk about like self-reflection and like knowing what your goal is. I to be honest, Brandon, I just finished my vision board the last week because when you've gone through so much failure, so to speak, and you have gone through like such a big life change, you have no idea what you want. And it was really hard for me to like write down what kind of car I wanted in 2 years or what kind of house I wanted to live in, because I was just trying to
survive.
I was trying to get my kids to school in the morning, and I was trying to like just put clothes on again. It was
Let me unpack this. Okay. So this is going to be, so far, it's one of my funnest interviews because your story is so real, and thank you for being vulnerable and so authentic. Like you always are. That's why I love you so much. But so I want to talk about, so before you and I started working together, so after you come out of the gate, you sell these houses, before we start working together, what were you trying to do to generate business? Because that's the little black hole that most new realtors live in. And it's totally filled with fear, anxiety, frustration, worry, doubt. What were you doing that period of time? Did you have doubts to say, man, I don't know if I can be in this business? What were you doing to try to generate more cash?
Well, to be honest, like I still had some catering things that were like lingering on. So, like I have clients I worked with, like brides, and I did a lot of corporate event planning. And so I still had, things that were trickling from that had moved, especially because of COVID, they had moved their dates. So I still had a little bit of income here and there, but, I knew that there were other ways to get listings just from my dabbling in like real estate. And when you first get it as an agent, you get all these emails and you get, things in the mail. And so I knew that there was a way. I just didn't know how to do it. and I was scared and intimidated and distracted, and I also I have my master's degree, and so I teach online at a university. And so when COVID happened, they asked me to teach last year online, and I thought, well, great, this is a great opportunity for me to make money. I would at least have this, and I could do it at home if the kids don't go back to school in the fall, and all of those questions that moms and families had over the summer. That's how I was like just making money. And Brandon, I would make $1,200 for 8 weeks to teach 60 students. It was a lot of work.
Wow.
And then, I had joined your program about the same time, but I was still teaching online and I was selling real estate. And I'm like, I have all these moving plates. And, I had already made the commitment, so I couldn't just quit. But I realized that it was such a distraction. Like the 10 or 15 hours I was using a week to generate this little bit of money to feed my kids was distracting me and keeping me from like prospecting or just doing what I needed to do. And so the real shift for me was when I started to make money. This is very personal, but I from my divorce and closing 4 restaurants, I had a little over $2 million in restaurant debt that was following me. And probably, I was making good money, and but I was not making a lot of money. And anybody that understands finances, before you start to put money in the bank, you have to dissolve your debt. And it came to a point 1 week in October where I was served 5 times with lawsuits from debts that I had from the restaurants that I had personal guarantees on. And I knew that I needed to like take care of that part of my life. So I filed for bankruptcy in October and was still working at the school and, doing some things on the side. But I was just so distracted, and like all of these things kind of
course you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, they were just bogging me down. And at the same time, I'm trying to learn how to prospect, which is
unbelievable,
very interesting. And like, you're literally staring at every single thing, feeling like you're failing.
Wow.
Because you don't do anything 100%. You're just doing everything at 25%, if that.
Yeah.
So the real shift for me was in December. I hadn't had a deal. I didn't have anything in the pipeline. But my bankruptcy was final mid-December. And so I kind of felt like I could breathe again. Also, I finished teaching that class and I was like really ready to buckle down. Like I knew I could do what you guys were doing, but I had never done it. Up to this point, I was in the program for 2 months, but I had probably made 3 or 4 very terrible calls to FSBOs. I mean, the worst. But I jumped in and didn't know what I was doing. I'm also very type A. And so for me to like not have the marketing materials or not have this or that, I just, you call it creative avoidance, but, and it is at the end of the day. But at the same time, I was like, finishing my bankruptcy and doing all of these things. I had Caitlin, like recreate my brand. I changed brokers because my broker was very unsupportive and it wasn't a good environment for me. So from the information that I gathered from the group, to be honest, I knew kind of what I wanted in a broker and what that meant. Because as a new agent, you just sign up with an agency.
That's right.
Like you don't know anything. And so when I didn't have any deals, I had nothing going on in November at all, I decided to change brokers and redo my marketing and do all of these things and wait for my bankruptcy to be finished. And so I was kind of doing all of that. And then December, I hit the ground running. And it was probably the week before Christmas, right after my bankruptcy, I started to make calls and they were terrible. I mean, really terrible and inconsistent and just nuts. And then you started the January challenge, and I didn't even know you were doing it because I wasn't really following up. But on January 1st, all these agents started going live on Facebook making calls. And I'm like, what is this? Like, my Facebook feed's blowing up. I'm social media challenged. I'm just terrible. And so I look up and I'm like, I've never done a Facebook Live in my entire life.
It's so funny.
Never, ever. And I had to like download cameras and browsers and all of these things just to get my first video. But I was like, you know what? Like, I wanted to hit it hard in 2021. And I knew like my 3 pillars of my business were FSBOs. I was going to just let my sphere bring in some stuff and nurture that a little bit. Yep. And I do a first-time home buyer seminar every quarter. So those are like my 3 pillars. And I love first-time home buyers. They're great, fun to work with, but buyers are buyers. And
that's right. Tough. They're
tough. So, but I do love to do it. And so Absolutely. I wanted to still do it. And it's also a great gateway for me with my for sale by owners, is that I'm constantly in front of buyers. And I just use that as an example. And it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's fun. And so I do.
Yeah. Let me ask you real quick. So, cause you're giving so much, this is so good, Kayla. I'm hoping you're just providing so much value. I want to kind of just focus on in December when you said, okay, I got to do this. Was there a part of you that says, I don't want to do this. Maybe I should get a job. Walk us through the mindset because we're only talking about 45 days ago, 60 days ago.
No, I mean, I sat on my couch. I very vividly remember calling my broker. I had changed brokerages, and my broker is phenomenal. Awesome. He's so supportive and just a very whole person. He reminds me a lot of you, and just like breaking down like what you want, what's important to you. And so like he really encouraged me to do the first time home buyer seminar because that's what I love, but It's not going to put money on the table. And so if you want to make so many transactions, like making sure that was good. But I remember sitting on the couch the week before my kids got out for Christmas and just calling him and saying like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I drop my kids off from school. I come home and I know I could be doing something to better my business, but I just sit on my couch and I don't know what to do. And so he was like, you got to dust your boots off. But you got to dust your boots off and like, just jump in. And so he became a huge accountability for me. And every Tuesday or at 11 o'clock, he calls and he asks what I'm doing. And so like he would just give me like 5 things you can do this week and 5 things. And so while that was happening simultaneously, like I jumped into the FSBO, and we had really determined, and I said, like, I've paid for this program, but I'm not using it, but I know that it works. So I want to do that. And he wasn't sure, and he still isn't to some degree, especially with like the flexible commission, but now he's like, you do you, girl, like you're got it going. And so, but he knew that was what I wanted, and he supported me in that. And so like, I kind of worked on my sphere and getting my database with that, up and going so I could put that on autopilot. And then I really dug in deep to the FSBOs, and then I put some more first time home buyer seminars on the calendar. And so like, he helped me just line up a plan.
That's great.
Just so good for my type A. I just needed the plan.
So you started making calls, right? And they were bad. You weren't good. And I kept encouraging. It's like, I talk about this all the time, right? I mean, the learning's in the doing. You can look back 60 days and say, now I understand what he says when he says that. When you started, you sucked. You weren't good. You were terrible. Yeah. And it took you to do that in order to get to the point where you put 12 deals under contract last month, which we're going to talk about that in a second. Walk us through those first couple of calls and how you mustered up the courage to do that and how you kept going.
Well, I like dabbled with the role play partner for a little bit. And I to be honest, like it was just not I have 3 kids at home running around crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, during my Facebook live calls in January, like there was very regularly a child like running, in the background.
Doing cartwheels, jumping, and
just asking me what's for dinner. Would you like for me to pick your nose? Like all the
That's
things.
right. All those things. I get it.
Yeah. But they, so I started making calls, totally terrible. And I would say, like, looking back, like I quit after, like I would make calls and it was uncomfortable and I didn't want to do it. So I didn't. And so I would do it, but then I would get angry because I had made all these calls last Tuesday and I haven't followed up. So like, am I going to make last Tuesday's work totally irrelevant? Like,
That's
so
right.
Then that would give me some courage to like make the follow-up call. But I was using RedX, which is not a fantastic system for follow-up. So then I was confused and it was overwhelming and just, all the things that keep you from really making the calls. And it was go ahead.
No, it's good.
It was about 2 weeks into making the calls that I realized that, and this was like a huge mental shift for me, that like I'm calling based off of a plan that I'm learning. But the client on the other end, they have no idea I've done it wrong. And so even if I do call and totally botch the call based off of my standards, they don't have any standard of a call. And when I did that, and I was just making another call and I would make another call. But when I started the 31-day challenge in January, it taught me just so much about just getting in and doing it. Like, don't make an excuse, just make the phone call. And every call that I made, and really videoing, and I was so mortified the first couple of days of videoing myself. Like it was mortifying, but everybody else was doing it. So I was jumping in. Like, I felt like that was my safe space. Like, if everybody else is doing it, making terrible calls, I can make terrible calls too. It's free game.
That's why we do it. Because we all go through shared suffering together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, then like by like day 10, like January 10th, I started to watch myself in the videos, which was, I still do it. Like, I'll go back every day when I make the calls on live. I spend like 20 minutes going back and looking at the calls that answered and just seeing how I did good, what I did bad, what I should have said, an objection.
It's your game film. It's game film.
Yeah. And
you're watching Kayla Fisher game film.
So, and it's honestly like so fun to me now to like make calls for a session and go back and look at what I can do better, because every time I made calls in January, I got better and I got better and I got better. And now, I mean, I'm not perfect by any means. And I do not, like, I just landed my first expired listing last week, had no idea what to do, but, I knew that the call was the hard part for me.
Yeah. But here's what happened. But the thing is like, so then you did it. You went through the January, the 31-day challenge. You called every day. Your skills got better. You ended up putting 12 deals under contract in January, which now they're all hopefully closing. You're getting paid in February. So let's break that down. What were some key things from your skills perspective where you started setting appointments? You started going on previews. It started to click. You're like, okay, I got this. Where you had 12 people agree to do business with you last month, Right. So walk us through the skills piece, that what you've learned now going through the program that's allowed you to build confidence and actually get results.
So, like I initially went on preview appointments probably the last week of, like, in between Christmas, because I started making calls in December, mid-December, and I went on my first preview appointments that week between Christmas and New Year's. And they were just terrible. I mean, I didn't go with anything that you said to go with. I hadn't even watched the video.
Sure.
So I went on them and I realized, I was terrible again, but I was excited to like be in front of people, and like, it was exciting. And I'm really good at closing in person. I'm very personable. I'm very, I understand what it means to like know your client and their motivation. And I'm sincere in that I genuinely want to help people sell their property. And if they don't want me to sell their property, I don't want to sell it for them.
Love it.
So if I know that, you know, like just being sincere is so valuable to your client, and they can sniff it out in a second. So my skills that I had to work on were truly, you know, the call. That was my hurdle, was getting the call and getting the appointment from the call. Once I got the appointment, I can wing it somewhat. But, you know, still, even like I'm still struggling with like the CMAs and really understanding that, and the resources that I'm using. I'm still tweaking those things, because the CMA that I have is like 70 pages. Like taking that to a listing appointment is like, let me flip through this Bible real quick and teach you about Jesus. But you know, so I'm really still working on those skills, but you know, just taking it one step at a time. And like in the preview appointment, and you mentioned this so much, like don't try to do it all at once. Just do the one next step, you know, the next thing, just focus on that. And so I went on a preview appointment with just my FSBO backup plan, and I trotted in and did terrible and left with no appointment. Then the next appointment I made, I just printed the Zillow ad, and I just did that. And I did that for one day. I had 3 appointments lined up, and I just printed the Zillow ad for all of them, and I did that. And then the next time I went, I took the CMA, and because I'm an unexperienced agent, so to speak, I still struggle with that. But I got better at closing the deal, and through the sincerity of like me just genuinely wanting to help people, I got the 12 different listing and preview appointments, or 12 different listing agreements. Some of them are double-sided, so it's a buyer agreement with the listing agreement, and so you know, it just, at some point I think I texted Ron in the middle, or maybe Keith, I can't remember, but I had, you know, my goal when I had done my business plan was to get, you know, 48 transactions for the year. Yep. And mid-January, I had already had 5 listing agreements. And I had this like crazy thought, what if I got 10? Like what if I could get 10? Yeah. And it was like everything I had done was like snowballing into like signing a listing agreement, signing a buyer agreement, signing a listing agreement. And it was crazy, like momentum. And at the same time, I literally called Keith Zimmer one day, and I was like, okay, bro, I have 12 listing agreements and I have no idea what to do. Yeah. Like, what do I don't even know. I had only put 1 listing in the system ever. Right. Like, I don't even know. And he was just like, take it one thing at a time, you know, like just, you know, eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I would just, you know, I pulled over one day and I got chewed out by clients. I mean, it was just like hellfire and brimstone. That's how you learn. That's right. And by the end of the month, I had, some of the deals haven't even been put in the system because they got pre-approved, and, you know, so now they're going to buy before they sell. And so, you know, I started to get really organized, and I use a folder system for, you know, I needed the physical hand. Like, I want to see my actual listings in my hand. Absolutely. And not on a computer screen. So I use, you know, the follow-up system through Vulcan 7, but when I get an actual client, I make them a folder, and I carry those folders with me everywhere I go. And every day I touch on them, and, you know, you just learn in the doing. And that's truly what I'm still doing. And, you know, now I'm at this point, I'm trying to put a house under contract, put 1 listing agreement and 1 closing a week. And if I do that, I'll have, you know, like if I can just every week, you know, I might not have a month where I have 12 listing, you know, signing appointments, because when I started that, I didn't have anything to do but to call, and now I have all of these listings. And so, yeah, so like that was another struggle that I had this month, was like, how do I maintain the prospecting while I
service your clients?
Yeah, and really being good at that. And so I've started to add on like transaction coordinators and a couple of different things that I think will help relieve me while I can continue to focus on prospecting, because I very much so do not want to hit that slump that everybody talks about, where you get all this business, you help your clients, and you forget about prospecting. So
that's so
I'm
good,
still learning.
Kayla. I mean, that is just, I mean, it's a great story. And so, what would you say to people that say prospecting doesn't work, that that's old school? I mean, you're a brand new agent just crushing it. I mean, you're living proof, but what would you say? What words would you say to somebody that says, oh, prospecting doesn't work?
I mean, I had this conversation with other agents at my brokerage that are like really focused on social media branding and like just being front of mind. To me, that seems like way more work than picking up the phone for an hour and a half or 2 hours, or, you won't know until you do it, whether or not you like it or not. And you can't, like, I hated calls at first, but now it's like, it's very encouraging to make a phone call and know that someone, I could build a new relationship with somebody that's outside of my sphere. Like, convincing people that you do not know and never had a relationship with to do business with you is one of the greatest skills that you can ever build.
You just nailed it. Let me pause you. That you just gave me goosebumps. So you just nailed it. That's the thing with prospecting, because you're in control of your actions.
Right.
And in literally less than an hour, based on the skills that you're learning, call a complete stranger that otherwise you would never know ever, and position yourself that they would want to do business with you, is absolutely the greatest skill that any entrepreneur could ever have, because now you never have to worry again. Right. You know with absolute certainty right now that you can pick up that phone and in an hour be at somebody's kitchen table presenting your case to get their listing. I mean, that's incredible power. You can't do that with anything else. Social media, direct mail, networking, you cannot do that. That's why I love prospecting so much. And so what does the future hold for you? Like, what is your mindset now? Do you look into the future with as much worry or doubt, or is it now all excitement about how big and how much money you can make in this business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at a place where I have, my kids are still here. They're still alive and kicking. And so I'm at a place of like, how aggressive do I want to be? Like, cause I can make 12 listing appointments every month. Like, that's totally possible. And I definitely want to do that. And so I'm like trying to find this balance. And at this point, I'm just continually like trying to make a listing, a closing, and a sale. Like, that's my goal right now, is to do that and refine my processes. Because I don't use banner season nearly as effective as I should. And I don't use BombBomb. Like, I don't know any of that. I don't even know how to do that technologically cool stuff. But, I want to get that better, and I just want to grow. But yeah, it's really inspiring to meet a stranger and build a relationship with them and help them. And at my core, like, that gives me a lot of inspiration in like making that phone call, that the people that I'm on the phone with, like, they do need my help and they don't know it.
That's right.
And so that's very inspiring to me to keep going. And then, I mean, obviously financially, out of those 12 contracts, my GCI is about $62,000. And,
Tell them real quick what you told me when I posted, hey, let's have a let's be honest moment. How much is in your bank account in November? What you told me, and then what that looks like now, because now you're potentially going to have a $40,000-$50,000 income month in February or March. Tell me what you said off air, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah. So in November, like, I think you went live and you were like, just trying to challenge us to be honest. And at that point, I was going through like the self-reflection, and
Yes.
I mean, it's brutal self-reflection,
Yeah.
but I had $12 in my bank account, and I was in the middle of a bankruptcy, and I was too chicken to say that in the group. Everybody's like, I have, 3,000. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I have $12. And I'm in the middle of a bankruptcy. So like, you just feel stuck. Like I can't make a ton of money. If I make money, it's all going to be gone. And so I was just stuck. But so to be honest, like right now, I don't have a ton of money yet either, but because I had to buy 12 signs last month, which is very expensive. And
yeah, I know.
Like I just kept calling the printer. I was like, I need another sign. I need another sign.
What do you have pending right now to close in February and in March right now?
So I have a closing. I'm supposed to have a closing tomorrow, but there's a winter storm, like the apocalypse is happening in Texas, and so title companies just opened back up today, and so I might, but I have a closing this month. I have one of my for sale by owners under contract, and I've listed one yesterday. We had to delay because of the storm. I listed it yesterday, like around 11, and I put it under contract at 10 o'clock last night.
Wow! Congratulations.
So I have another listing that went live. That's going live on Friday. We're waiting for the snow to melt to go take photos and all that. So there's been a few delays, but like all of my contracts are still intact as far as like we're just moving along. One of my listings was going to list and then buy. Then they got pre-approved and they don't need a contingency anymore. So we're focusing on buying. And so like some of that has shifted, but just like nurturing those, leads. I'll have 4 closings right now are slotted for March, and one this week. And then, I still have like 3 listings that are out that are not under contract yet. But
well, look at that. I mean, listen, so I don't know what company you're with or how big the company is, but 4 closings in March for an agent that is less than 1 year in the business, that's got to put you at the top of the leaderboard at your company to have 4 closings in 1 month. And then the other story or moral of the story or takeaway is the work we do now pays us in 90 days. Now you can say with certainty that is the truth. You busted your ass. Oops, sorry if there's kids around in January, and you're going to get paid. You're going to get all that money is going to start rolling in the end of February and into March. And you nailed it, which is why, again, I have so much respect for you. You know the importance of keeping your foot on the gas and keep prospecting, keep putting leads in the funnel, keep meeting with people and servicing your clients, which you're working on your systems and your processes to be more efficient and effective. But you've got the momentum rolling now. You've already put in the hard work. And I think you would agree that you don't want to go backwards and start all over again.
No.
So that's huge. I mean, that's so amazing. Your broker's just got to be like, oh my gosh, like how many agents are in your company, would you say?
Well, there's about 16, and they're mostly from the Houston market. One of our FSBO, fam joined our brokerage. We met and joined our brokerage last week or so.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a newer broker for sure. He left Keller Williams and started his own brokerage. So he doesn't have a ton, but I'll tell you just from I'm the only person in my brokerage in my territory. Everybody else is in Houston, which is about 2 hours away from me.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like the Lone Ranger over here. But even in my industry, like the other agents in my area, nobody's putting up 4 listings a month with one agent. They might be on a team doing but there's not one other agent that's producing that kind of volume that I've seen in the last 6 weeks. And so I have gotten some, I just keep posting pictures, I have a new listing, I have a new listing. And I've had other agents call and be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not ready to share that with you.
Yeah. No, that's so amazing. I mean, that's why I do, why this program exists. It is so selfishly, it's so, makes me so happy to hear that you're winning on this level. Cause I'm like, that's why I wanted to do this with you. I'm like, this woman, although she's gone through so much pain and so much heartache, she's doing it and she's winning on a big, big scale. And oh, by the way, she hasn't even been in the business for a year yet. I mean, when I interview you again in another year, like I can't even imagine where you're going, Kayla. You are going to inspire an industry. And I just want to thank you for doing this, because I know people in our program behind the scenes that no one sees, they're like, Kayla Fisher's on fire. I want to be like Kayla. I want to be like Kayla. And so you just have such a strong story that's very real. You went through, you were up here, you went through this pain in your life, and now you're on this upswing. Yeah. And you're definitely a stock that I would invest in. And so I'm so proud and I'm so excited for your future. Any last words of encouragement to agents that maybe were where you were at? We're very down. They don't know if this business is for them. They're scared of prospecting. Any words of encouragement for them?
Yeah, I mean, like facing failure in personal matters or even in business is a very humbling experience, and you feel like you don't even know where to start, but I've shared this with other people in our group that like, you don't have to do everything right and you don't have to do it all perfect all the time. You just have to give yourself like a little win every day and like make a little win. And it's, what you focus on, and like set your, you might not be able to make a phone call and land a deal and do all of those things right now. But if you just set your goal like a little smaller for that day, and instead of like staring at a bunch of failures, you eventually stare at a lot of little wins. And then those little wins add up to big wins. And then you eventually realize that you are strong enough to do it, and that you are strong enough to try again. And that is something that was really hard for me. But I've really tried to like just focus on my little wins, and then find people that are going to cheer you on. And if they're not cheering you on, then they don't need to be in your life. And that sounds like so cliche, like I would tell it to my teenager, but it's the truth. And even as adults, we forget that, you just need cheerleaders, and everybody needs a win every day. And it might just be that you did your dishes, or that you made the phone calls, that you went on the preview appointment, or that you got the listing, or that you made the deal, but as long as you focus on the little wins in life, it inspires you to win again and again and again. And then, eventually you wake up one day and have 12 listing agreements.
Yeah. I mean, that's great advice. I mean, that's the winning the day checklist, right? To your point, it's like attach your wins to these small little actionable things: waking up on time, getting in a walk with the dog, making 10 calls, going on one appointment this week. That's the little wins that Kayla, that you're talking about, that you're right. I mean, you just build on top of these little wins. So man, oh man, oh man, thank you so much for jumping on this. I can't wait to share this with the world. And I'm sure I'll see you like I always do, but I'm really, really, truly excited for you.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be a part of the group. It has really changed my life, and not just professionally, but personally, just seeing other agents that are ready to like do the work and support people and be supportive in other people's wins is like just been such a great atmosphere to be in. And so it really is my pleasure. So
awesome. Well, Kayla, I'm sure you'll finish this week out strong. I look forward to seeing you on our coaching calls. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you. Hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.